Hello, Wheelchair Gunfighter here. So, I want to address an issue about reality, training for reality. Now, in recent days, I've been friended by a lot of people in the self-defense, martial arts, firearms community who are in wheelchairs and have been doing martial arts for a long period of time. Not a whole lot of shooters in wheelchairs, but there's quite a few long-time martial artists that have a name for themselves out there in wheelchairs. And I'm not calling out any particular school or any particular style, but because when you get down to it, there are roots in almost any system. All these systems at one point were battlefield arts, and the roots are still there to apply those methods to hand-to-hand combat, to personal self-defense in today's society. That capacity is still there. Now, what I mean by this, so it's not the art, what I mean by this is if you see a demonstration of someone applying maneuvers to someone in a self-defense demonstration where the other person is standing still, that's not reality. The reality of a violent encounter, a close-quarters violent encounter, is that there's two people trying to solve what they perceive as a problem in the other person at the same time. Both people are adapting to the other person as quickly as they possibly can, and the person that adapts fastest, most quickly, is typically the winner, is typically the survivor. So there's no standing still. And I get it that on a very low level, you want to have a partner who's willing to lend you his body to manipulate and twist, to get a feel of what that maneuver you're trying to learn, to get a feel for it, to see what it looks like on the other person. I get that. That's part of the process. However, when your full speed demonstration involves that other person standing still, I have a hard time believing that that's a realistic engagement, or that's a realistic concept. There's a lot of these types of things that I've seen when you start applying resistance, when that other person doesn't let you have the moves, they stop working entirely. So these 8-point knife disarms, they don't work. If it doesn't happen in one or two moves, it doesn't get done. So, moving past that, training from the wheelchair, you really have to find someone who's willing to get rough and tumble with you. And trust me, that can be a little bit difficult. People are kind of afraid of hurting somebody in a wheelchair. Even trained martial artists, they're not sure how to move around the wheelchair or, pull their joint manipulations and stuff. It's different, and people aren't used to it. I get that. So a good training partner is invaluable, I'll say that. Now, training for a reality for the wheelchair. There's a particular reality that I want to address, and it's a core reality for people in wheelchairs, is that when you can look at security camera footage, there's all kinds of stuff out there that you can look to and that will verify what I'm saying. One of the first things that happens when someone in a wheelchair is robbed is they are removed from their wheelchair by force. Most of the time, it's out the front of to the front. It's kind of a dumping motion out the front of the chair. Sometimes it's backwards, usually not. People intuit that that's a harder way to get someone out of the chair. The other times it's to the sides, and that usually involves a scuffle. So the person in the wheelchair somehow goes hands-on with them and the chair dumps sideways. But what I want to address today is mitigating damage by being dumped through forward out of the chair. And we'll cover a basic forward roll in a second. But just know that that is a reality. Someone who sees you as prey, as a predator, you are their next meal, you are their next you're their next drug cache or whatever, you're their next meal ticket. They're going to look at the easiest way to get the quick advantage over you. And getting you on the ground when you can't stand up to begin with is a very tempting possibility. That's why that happens so often. That is a critical vulnerability, so know that that's there. Now that you know that that's there, in your personal training you have to train for it. Now, if you don't have the physical capacity to just throw yourself on the ground, 80 times a day for training, don't worry about it. But do find some people who are willing to work with you. get down on the ground and practice being on the ground and working from that position of severe disadvantage. It's very hard to work from that position, but you have to try it because that could happen to you. Now, that being said, there are ways to mitigate being damaged by the ground should you be attacked in this manner. The most obvious and easily learned skill is a forward roll. Now, what you're essentially doing is spreading the force of the impact with the ground over a wider portion of your body. So I want the force to travel down my arm and from this shoulder to this hip, or vice versa, depending on which way you roll. And which way you roll is going to be dictated by how you're attacked. Typically speaking, someone comes up behind you and throws you out from behind. They attack you from behind and they throw you forward, and then they continue their forward momentum and already are on top of you. So, typically speaking, they're going to come from behind, grab a shoulder, and roll you out of the chair, or drag you out of the chair, but you're going this way from a rearward attack. Now, whatever shoulder is grabbed, that's going to be the shoulder that you're ideally going to use. Ideally, anything could happen. So, what's going to happen is, I'm going to get this arm thrown forward. This arm's going to contact the ground. I'm going to contact the ground. I'm going to continue to tuck my head. I'm going to tuck my head, and I'm going to make my upper body into as much of a circular shape as I can. And that energy is going to transfer down, and I'm going to try to roll down onto the ground. Okay? So it's going to look like this. I'm thrown from the chair. I'm thrown from the chair this way, and I end up here. If it's a lot of force, I may end up on my back. Okay? I may end up on my back, I may be upright. If you have legs that you don't use, you're in the wheelchair because you have a spinal injury, some kind of muscular problem, you have legs and you don't use them, your dynamic and the roll is going to be different. The same general concept still applies, but your dynamic is going to be different. Meaning, what happens to your body mid-roll and how you end up is going to look different. Don't let that discourage you. It's the concept still applies. You're still trying to mitigate damage from hitting the ground. Now, when it comes to handguns, one of the first things that you want to do is obviously go to your gun. Those people are going to be right on top of you, so you've got to be fast. If they're on top of you and they start frisking you, which is what they're going to do, they're going to start rummaging through your clothing looking for valuables. If you carry a handgun, they're going to find it. Now, the incongruence with my argument against open carry most of the time, handguns are very valuable on the street. Typically speaking, stolen items go for, about 5 or 10 to 1. So whatever it's worth, used, you reduce that to a fifth or a tenth, and that's what someone can flip for cash pretty quickly. Typically, people are looking for cash when you're being robbed. It's not your goods. So, okay, I've got an expensive iPhone, but they can't get much out of that on the street. Given if you're being robbed and they take it, that's more than they had before. But handguns are just the opposite. Handguns can be worth 4 to 5 times what they're worth in a gun shop, because handguns, especially on the black market, are pretty hard to come by in the United States. They're mostly stolen. So bear that in mind. If you open carry all the time and someone sees that, they may see that. If they're desperate enough, they may see that as worth the extra risk, being extra careful, ambushing you to take your handgun. It happens. Now, back on track. They're got you on the ground, they're starting to rummage through your clothing looking for valuables. If they find your gun before you get to it, it's going to get taken from you, and it can be used against you at that point. You have to be quick to your gun. So your training regimen should look something like this. Work into your rolls, and then work different positions. Roll different ways, throw your body in different ways if you have the physical capacity to do so. And then work getting to your gun from odd angles. A realistic handgun course for someone in a wheelchair will not be complete with at least, maybe not, you don't have to do all the rolls, but at least practicing shooting from the ground and from positions of severe disadvantage. So twist it up in your wheelchair, the wheelchair on top of you. I mean, you can paint a lot of pictures, but you have to throw that in there because that is part of your reality, whether you like it or not. Instructors, make sure that those students coming to you know that. That is part of the reality of being robbed in a wheelchair, being assaulted in a wheelchair. First thing that goes is that person out of their chair. They're being removed from their position of, their position of stability. Now, this is what a typical encounter would look like. So Will's going to come and he's going to act as the attacker. And we're going to slow it down a little bit. We're probably going to go 2/3, 3/4 of the speed. But this is what it's going to look like. He's going to throw me from the chair. I'm going to do a roll. And he's going to be right on top of me, more or less. So this is what it's going to look like, right? I'm doing whatever. Will comes up. It's very, very fast, okay? You saw how close he was on top of it. Now, if Will did something more of just drag me out of the chair, right? He's trying to just drag me kind of more straight down. You can start your draw, and these are just training suggestions. You can start your draw before you even hit the ground, right? So Will comes up, he takes, oh, yeah, I get my gun, right? He's going to be right on top of me. So the faster you can get your gun out, the more success you're going to see in your training scenarios. Now again, you can really hurt yourself by throwing yourself around if you don't know what you're doing. So start off practicing the rolls. Practice getting up and out of your chair. If you can't do those things, at the bare minimum, practice being on the ground and manipulating your firearm from that position. If you have a good training partner, have that person be over you. Have them really cramping your movement and practice fending them off while you're getting to your handgun, right? Practice those things. Put as much pressure on yourself as you can while still being safe enough to where you're not causing yourself more damage, okay? So, instructors, please bear in mind that this is a reality for people in wheelchairs. Train for reality. And we'll have some more of there are other critical vulnerabilities that are involved with wheelchairs. Another really big one is getting in and out of vehicles. Vehicle transfer is a critical vulnerability for the wheelchair bound. So we will be doing videos on that in the future. You're spending a long time going from the seat of your car, assembling your chair, to being in your wheelchair, or vice versa. Parking lots are inherently dangerous anyway. Moving yourself from open area into a tin can, those situations are inherently dangerous for anybody. So being in a wheelchair is that much more so. So look forward to future videos of that. We'll do kind of some more elaborations of this. Different scenarios, being pulled backwards, tackled in the chair. We'll do some other stuff, but these are the basics. Practice rolls, get familiar with the ground, increase your physique to be able to get in and out of your chair more easily, and practice getting to your handgun under adverse conditions. So, thank you for watching. If you have any suggestions or specific questions, or big red flags you think that I'm totally full of it, let me know. I really appreciate criticism a lot. I don't have the people I used to train with close to me anymore. My instructors aren't anywhere close to me. It's rare for me to be able to get to train with my instructors. So having more eyes looking at me and seeing what I'm doing wrong and giving me critique is very helpful for me. So if you see something that you think, hey, why didn't you do this? Or maybe you should do this. Hey, why don't you try this? Please let me know. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe.